So I want to play for you a clip that we had in the solutions section, the final section of Thrive 1. And I just want to start right in on that clip, and then we'll talk about it briefly afterward. It's going to take time and courageous effort to shift the consciousness and accomplish the tasks that will move us toward the world I'm talking about. And yet I know of no greater gift that we could give to future generations. We can't do everything at once. I envision 3 overlapping stages of the solutions process. In stage 1, we bring as much integrity as possible to our current systems. If we cut the U.S. military budget in half, it would still roughly equal the defense spending of the entire rest of the world. Between that and getting rid of the Federal Reserve, over $1 trillion a year would be freed, enough to feed everyone on our planet, deal with social issues, and heal our environment. Many people believe that widespread starvation and poverty are inevitable, but compared to war, eliminating poverty and restoring the environment are cheap. According to Lester Brown's Earth Policy Institute, it would take under $200 billion a year to restore the Earth's environment and meet global social goals. But this stage isn't the end goal of the Liberty perspective. While stage 1 has a lot of the compassion typically associated with a liberal Democrat agenda, stage 2 reflects much of the wisdom of the traditional conservative worldview. In stage 2, we shrink government's role to protecting individual liberty and stewarding things we share in common, like ecosystems and the airwaves we use to communicate. As the system gains integrity and we move to sound currency, people will have enough money to have more control over everything that affects them. Stage 3 grows out of the increasing freedom that people gain in stages 1 and 2, as they have more money and more time. There is no involuntary tax and therefore no involuntary governance. There's no monopoly on force. There are rules, but no rulers. Rigorously protecting individual rights turns out to be key for honoring our interdependence. We can be distinct and unified at the same time. As utopian as this can sound at first, I've been thrilled to see how much practical thinking has been done to deal with tough issues like healthcare, crime, and education. These 3 stages validate the best of both the liberal and conservative perspectives that have divided us for so long, and then reconcile them at a new level, around non-violation, a core ethic we all share. Stage 3 honors human incentive and finally includes the rights of not just many, not just most, but everyone. Okay, so I know you've all seen that before, some of you many times, but I just want to point out, I am so thrilled to see what's going on already with the Trump administration. And I tell my liberal friends, I've had a lot of conversations with recently, I feel your pain, I feel your fear, and your life is going to get so much better whether you like it or not. And so let me just review that. I just taking notes as I was watching it. So I recommended that they cut the military budget by 50%. Well, Trump has just recommended that Pete Hegseth cut 8% of the military budget every year for the next 5 years. That's 40% of the military budget 5 years from now. And they're actually saying that. So then I recommended getting rid of the Federal Reserve. Well, Musk is talking about bringing in Ron Paul to be in charge of auditing the Federal Reserve. And once they audit it, do you think they're going to keep it in place? At best, it's going to be, not at best, but an improvement would be to take it in under the U.S. Treasury. So if we do have a relatively honest administration, then they're not just printing all this money. And then in that section 1 on the liberal phase, I quoted this study that said it would take under $200 billion a year to restore the environment and global social goals. 200 billion. And what I just cited, what DOGE is finding already, was potential savings of, 8-10 trillion. So the money is not the issue, folks. So that was the liberal section of it. And, it's very messy, but fundamentally that's what we've been in. And, they kind of had their chance. And some great things, we got rid of a lot of racism and bigotry and took care of a lot of people who were most disadvantaged and so forth. And some of that will continue under a lot more scrutiny. But we're moving into stage 2, I think now, which is really the liberty phase. I call it the Ron Paul phase, where you have honest money, small government, and no foreign wars of aggression. So that's what I think we're moving into right now. I hope that, I think one of Trump's weakest areas is it's going to be hard for him to resist spending a lot of money in order to do good things that will help his reputation. But I think still the savings alone and having people advise him not to go crazy with the spending, I think we're going more and more toward honest money. And he's big on crypto and he's big on gold. He's very interested in gold backing for our currency because he understands that if we don't return to that, then the world will go to the BRICS alliance because they're starting to back their currencies with gold. Okay, so that's phase 2. Phase 3, no tax. Well, he's already talking about, he is getting rid of tax for overtime, tax on tips, tax on Social Security, and he's talking about getting rid of internal taxes. It used to be before 1913 that taxes were handled externally by tariffs. They just created the IRS and the Federal Reserve in 1913 and went to this internal system of where they take your money against your will that you have earned. Tariffs aren't great either. They're a tax, but at least it's voluntary in terms of what you get to choose what you buy or not and whether or not that has tariffs on it. But I think there's a chance that we're moving, starting now, toward getting rid of the income tax. Imagine that in your life. A lot of people who've moved to Florida, Tennessee, and Idaho are already enjoying no state income tax. But imagine if they get rid of the federal income tax, of capital gains tax, of estate tax. All of a sudden, everybody, I had some economists when we were doing Thrive One, I hired 3 economists to run some numbers for me. And I said, okay, if we have free energy and we've got honest money, we get rid of the Federal Reserve, what would the impact be on a normal American individual, adult, and their family? And the aggregated research came back that people would have 6 to 10 times both the assets and the income that they have now, with not working anymore, probably less. So just think of your annual income and multiply it by 6. Now think of your assets and multiply that times 8. And imagine the world we're living in. Because you not only have freedom in your own life, now you can take care of people in your family, in your community who may be under duress. And that gets rid of this whole myth that the government is going to take care of sick people and poor people and educate the young and so forth. None of